Coming up on today's edition of Locked On Eagles, we continue our preview of the 2022 NFL Draft prospects. Kicking things off, quarterback on Friday. Now it's running back and tight end.
You are Locked On Eagles, your daily Philadelphia Eagles podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We thank you for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. Welcome in, Eagles fans, to a Tuesday edition of the show. I'm Louie DiBiase, joined as always by my co-host Gino Camilleri. Episode 205 this week, downloaded into your phone. Wherever you get the podcast, we're in video form as well. On YouTube, hit us up on Twitter at LockedOnBirds, at GC24_football. And at DiBiase LOE. Gino, today we continue our rankings. We really kick things off rankings-wise. Friday, we talked quarterback with Thor Nystrom of NBC Sports Edge to really preview that position. Today, we're going to start things off on offense this week with running back and tight end, two positions that the Eagles don't really desperately need in 2022 with Dallas Goedert already established, got the contract extension last year. You've got Miles Sanders this year. Maybe you need the future replacement there, but more likely you just need depth behind him and Kenny Gainwell and Boston Scott. But two positions that I think this team is going to look at on day 2 and day 3. So it's worth talking about.
Absolutely so. And I would say tight end more than running back, because yesterday I made the analogy that when you build a house, like, you have to set the foundation and then you have the pillars that construct the outside of the house. Dallas Goedert is a surefire pillar of this team. But below him, do you really have a lot of foundation at that tight end position? And that's a big question, one that the Eagles haven't had for nearly a decade now, right, Lou? Because it was Brent Selleck right into Zach Ertz, right into Dallas Goedert, and they had at least two of those guys on the team at once since 2013. So now you got to find that second guy there, and especially with the talk that the Eagles do want to run more 12 personnel, it could be ideal to get a pass catcher at the tight end position, because one, it allows Dallas Goedert to go and be more of a pass catcher, because you can bring a guy in there who can block, take away some of the looks that might open up the field for Dallas Goedert and the other guys around them, because Jack Stoll is not really an option. Tyree Jackson, he's still developing into a potential tight end for the future. You don't really know. But at running back, I think you have solid foundation. You have solid pillars there as well. You have Miles Sanders. Kenny isn't going anywhere anytime soon. And Boston Scott arguably is one of the best role players in the league. And for our Sixers fans, he might be the Danny Green of this team. Like, just a guy that you need to go and put up a three that changes the momentum of a game. Boston Scott, anytime this team is down, it just seems like he's the guy whose motor keeps on going.
Yeah, role player-wise, Gino, they're way better off at running back right now, as you mentioned. Definitely. Kenneth Gainwell and Boston Scott as your RB2 and RB3, you're in a great situation. So I'm with you. When it comes to these two positions, if you're trying to address future role players, tight end, much more important. As you said, Jack Stoll, not a guy you want to run 12 personnel with very consistently. You don't want to run 12 personnel like you were with Ertz and Goedert that consistently, but you'd like to have it more of an option than last year after Ertz went to Arizona. The one thing that could change this discussion is what they think about Miles Sanders, because if they don't plan on giving him a contract extension like they gave one to Goedert last year, then running back is more important than tight end this year. But something tells me, man, that Howie mentioned Sanders by name during his combine press conference as somebody that could get that next deal. He mentioned Goedert, Maddox, Sweat, Mailata last year. They're hoping he can be that player in 2022. So although there's this, should you pay a running back debate that goes back and forth, I don't know. I think the odds are the Eagles probably do keep Sanders. So that does make tight end more important in this draft class.
And Howie doesn't really tend to mention people by name unless, like, he does have, like, this affection
because
for
why
him.
Do it? Why set it up if you don't plan on it?
And Miles is one of the guys that you and I talked about, like, potentially a hometown discount, potentially due to injury. You get him back for a little bit cheaper. And right now, he's in that shady part of his career, that LaShawn McCoy part of his career, where he really, like, started to hit the over the hump, and once Shady learned to identify lanes better, got the ball control under control, he became the player who we remember here in Philadelphia. And Sanders, I don't think he's even hit his ceiling yet of what he could be. Get him fully healthy for a full year, another full offseason. I think the sky is the limit for him and this whole running back unit. Kenny Gainwell said the other day that this season he's going to go off, and I really expect that too, Lou. Like, a pass catching back and somebody who's that explosive, brother, he's going to be getting all the opportunities in the world.
Yeah, it will be interesting, though, with running back, because if you're right and Sanders has more in the tank, I mean, he's already shown when he's playing, he's one of the most efficient, explosive running backs in football. Will you get that hometown discount since you didn't get a deal done likely this offseason? If it is next year, that does play into the equation here. And if the Eagles do take a running back in like the second or third round, it'll be very telling what they think. But if they wait until day 3, I still think odds are, that could mean they believe in Kenneth Gainwell, but odds are Miles Sanders will be here. So if it is about RB2 and RB3 versus tight end 2, Gino, I think we want to prioritize tight end earlier in this draft. I mean, you look at, the past times they've taken these positions in the draft, when it comes to core pieces, like they'll go early, second round on Zach Ertz, second round on Dallas Goedert, second round pick on Miles Sanders. When it comes more to the role players, you've seen later on, even undrafted free agency with Corey Clement, the 5th round and the 4th round with Wendell Smallwood and Donnell Pumphrey, 5th round for Kenneth Gainwell, tight end 2. So I expect when they do take these positions this year, it will be later on.
I think one common denominator with all 3 of those guys was that the Philadelphia Eagles did a very good job, something that they do get a lot of crap for, in identifying a talent who still had much room to grow. Dallas Goedert could even block. He didn't really do much of that at South Dakota State. Same with Zach Ertz. Miles Sanders, I mean, we didn't really know what he was going to be. He was an athlete, but could he be a true running back? They did a fantastic job finding those guys on day 2 early on that they knew, one, we could get into this offense right away and implement them in a way that's going to be explosive and play to their strengths, while at the same time knowing that there's much more to their game. And I look at the running backs and the way that they've kind of fallen in drafts to, you're not seeing Zeke Elliott's go 4 anymore, Leonard Fournette's type of thing. You're getting good role players that could be a top back in this league.
It happens every year,
in the right situation. Yeah, 100%.
I feel like for the last decade.
Why was Kenny drafted so late? Right. Like, I'll never understand that.
I mean, the Eagles, if there wasn't Nick Foles as the Super Bowl MVP, it would have been an undrafted running back, Corey Clement. So, yeah, I feel like every year.
$3,000 on that, if so. I had a good wager on Corey.
And it doesn't always pan out to be the running back you thought it would be on day 3 that becomes a star. I thought it was going to be Bruce Anderson or Darwin Thompson. Wasn't either, but it feels like every year there's at least 2 or 3 guys that you're like, there it is, the late, day 3 running back that became a stud, the James Robinson or the David Johnson, that Jordan Howard even when he was with Chicago.
Brother, undrafted free agent. Yeah.
Happens every year. The Eagles know it especially. So, Gino, we're going to discuss the running back position a little more in depth in segment 2. We have our rankings to post, our top 5 running backs. Both of us, we're going to compare and contrast, talk about some later options as well. We'll do the same for tight end around the corner right here on Locked On Eagles as we continue to preview the 2022 NFL Draft that kicks off next Thursday. Guys, today's show is sponsored by Athletic Greens. Our next partner at Athletic Greens has a product that we use literally every day here at Locked On Eagles. I started taking Athletic Greens because I simply don't have enough time in the day to prepare the amount of healthy meals that I need to get through. Right now, I'm working like 3 jobs during the week, both day and evening. The grind is real, and I needed more energy. Good feeling energy, started relying on caffeine more, which just was not the move. So I've been on Athletic Greens for a few weeks now, and I absolutely love it. It doesn't taste healthy either. It has a mild tropical flavor that I'm really into. I look forward to it every morning as I plan the podcast and write articles for Fox 43. So what is this stuff? Well, with 1 delicious scoop of Athletic Greens, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. The special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging. All of those things. I've sent it over to my brothers too. They're really enjoying it. It supports better sleep quality and recovery, supports mental clarity and alertness. It's one thing with all of the best things. It costs you less than $3 a day, so you're investing in your health, and it's cheaper than your cold brew habit, whatever the go-to is. Replace it with Athletic Greens. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition, especially heading into the flu and cold season. It's just one scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NFL Network. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/NFL Network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance.
Well, when you take your Athletic Greens and you get that buzz of energy and you're locked in for the day, you're nice and focused, make sure you pick up your mobile device. Go to this website. It's called betonline.net. Don't know if you've heard about it, but they're the official sportsbook of the Locked On Eagles podcast, the Locked On Podcast Network. And not only that, it's the easiest, fastest, quickest, and most abundant user interface in the sports betting world. Trust me, I've been betting since my days in high school, where you used to have to call up somebody, put in a wager. You didn't know if the line was changing at any second. Things have come a long way, and I am happy at betonline.net is the one sports book that I've used for the longest now. No need to worry about going and depositing money. You could do it right on your phone. You could go in there, bet player props, bet guys on the draft and find out where they're going to go. Bet how many offensive players, defensive players are going to go in the first round. Bet any sport that you like. You could bet lacrosse. I got my lacrosse coaching shirt on right here. I'm betting the PLL when it comes around here in a few weeks. NHL playoffs, NBA playoffs. Go Sixers for all our fans here at Locked On Eagles. Make sure you go to betonline.net today. It's where the game starts. It's where you put your money in. It's where you win money. It's where you bet responsible, and it's where all the sport action begins. BetOnline.net, the official sports book of the Locked On Eagles podcast.
All right, Eagles fans, welcome back into this Tuesday edition of Locked On Eagles. Thank you so much for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. Now for a big announcement as well. Starting Thursday, April 28th, next Thursday, start of the NFL Draft, make sure you tune into Locked On NFL Draft's live coverage with all 3 days of real-time analysis from our extensive lineup of experts and insiders. And for those of you dying to know who your team's going to take, catch Odyssey and Locked On's Ultimate NFL Mock Draft special hosted by Brian Peacock and former scout Matt Williamson of the Peacock and Williamson NFL show all week leading up to the first pick. Gino and I make our debut on that tomorrow, picks 15 and 18. So subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Today, Gino, we're continuing our preview of each prospect pool in the 2022 NFL Draft. Did quarterback on Friday with Thor Nystrom. Today, we're doing running back and tight end. We're going to dive into running back first here in segment 2 and compare and contrast what we have with our top 5 at the position. And I'm proud of us, man. It's a little different than most. Like, I think we
spelled my name wrong, dude. Come on.
Oh, no.
Killing me.
Well, excuse the typo. But, Gino, to take a look at our top 5, I think it's pretty different from the consensus.
I would say so. I'm a big fan of Damian Pierce. And if you go on the Draft Network, he's way the heck down there in a lot of simulators too. When I look at running backs, I don't really get caught up on size too much. And you guys know I love Jarrett Patterson out of Buffalo last year. The guy was 5'6", but he could run block. He's a fierce downhill runner. Damian Pierce does all of that at around 5'7". He's got a thick lower half. He's able to just put his head down. There's the one play that I know went viral when it happened where he puts his head down going into the end zone. His helmet gets ripped off. He ends up scoring a touchdown. And you could just see the electricity in his body for a guy who's 5'7" is absolutely electric. And for the Eagles backfield, they don't really discriminate against size back there. Like if you bring an element to this team that they don't have and a big downhill thumper like that, even at his size, same with Brian Robinson, who's a little bit bigger on the spectrum, but does a lot of what we're looking for. And those guys, they're almost like a dime a dozen now, Lou. Like you could find them in the draft day 3 easily. I wouldn't be shocked to see a guy like Damian Pierce be a selection for the Eagles in the 5th round. It wouldn't shock me one bit.
So for our audio listeners, here are our top 5 at running back. Gino went with Iowa State running back Breece Hall, number 1, Michigan State running back Kenneth Walker, 2, Georgia running back James Cook, 3, Alabama running back Brian Robinson, 4, and Florida running back Damian Pierce, 5. The rankings that we differ here. So we both had Breece Hall at 1. I had James Cook at 2. I actually put in Arizona State running back Rashad White at 3, with Kenneth Walker at 4, and then South Dakota State running back Pierce Strong Jr. at 5. Gino, but again, with running back, we mentioned it in segment 1, you see so many day 3 picks become stars, like the best of the class. I wouldn't be surprised if Brian Robinson, Damian Pierce, Pierre Strong, Rashad White, one of those 4 became a top player in this class. I think with running back, it's a lot different. You got to look at it because teams don't take them as early, so guys fall later. I think it's easier to translate to the next level at this position. So I don't think, although we have some different players than most top 5 lists, I don't know. I don't really say anything at running back is all that bold.
No, not at all. And it's kind of just like pick your flavor to an extent as well. And Breece Hall, yeah, he's going to go much higher than a lot of these guys.
Man,
and Kenneth Walker.
His ability in space is just, I mean, it's not shady like Gino, but Breece Hall's a fun watch.
I said yesterday, like draft an Iowa State running back, David Montgomery, same thing. Like you're going to get a guy who just puts up all-purpose yards and doesn't go down at first contact. And I want to read off something here from, I got this binder here, and I'm going to have 4 of them for draft night. These are all from Dane Brugler, part of the Beast, his series here. You can see I got all the positions in here. A little overall snippet on Damian Pierce of what Dane Brugler says. He says, overall, Pierce doesn't have the resume of a bell cow back or a big play creator, but he has an NFL build and run style with instincts and finishing skills to be a better pro than college player. And that's exactly the type of guy I'm looking for. Yeah, he does have a lot of tread on his tires, but I need somebody when the game matters in those short area situations. Miles has kind of been hit or miss with that over his career. Boston Scott, we know that like he can't really truly be that guy. Kenny does run well between the numbers, but I just want one guy that I know can get me those short area yards. When we had LeGarrette Blount, dude, and Jay Ajayi and Corey Clement, you knew you were going to get those yards to pick up and go to the next first down to allow the pass offense to open up. A player like this that gets you those small yards, that does the little things in the run game that allow the rest of the playbook to open up, those guys are invaluable in my opinion. I think you could get that out of Pierre Strong as well. I think Rashad White is another guy in that book. Brian Robinson. I mean, there's plenty of guys on this list, and we only did 5 of them. I mean, you could go down our top 10 too, and even outside the top 10, find your guy that has that ability to finish in short area yardage, and you're going to get a guy who fits in Philadelphia to a T, because Kenny, they used to like him to use him at slot. Miles is going to get the bulk of the carries on first and second down. Boston is your changeup, but really when you need a go-get-'em fastball type of player that like just overpower them, I don't think this team has it yet. And this is a year that with everybody falling, like running backs just keep falling year after year. Now's the time to strike, Lou. In this class, a lot of guys with that COVID year, it's just an abundance of players at positions like tight end, like running back, just where the depth is just so much better than years past.
Yeah, and I look at Rashad White as a guy that I had higher on my rankings than most. I think he offers that physical style, that contact balance. I think the vision is impressive too, but I think for a guy that size, although he's not super fast, like I think he does move well in space. I mean, there's a play I was watching today against UCLA. He gets hit twice in the legs. He shakes it off, absorbs it, and then puts a guy in a spin cycle and gets down the field. I think he's got good hands too. So, for some of these bigger running backs, you mentioned too, Brian Robinson. I think Robinson's an underrated receiver as well. I was at the Senior Bowl watching him in one-on-one drills. He can move, and he's got soft hands too. Just because a guy didn't do something in college doesn't always mean they don't have that ability. Miles Sanders in 2019 was the Eagles' best receiving deep threat. He caught like 5 balls at Penn State. So don't put everybody into a box just because they're a bigger physical running back doesn't mean they can't do certain things. So, you look at this class, Gino, I don't think it's amazing. But at the same, I think Breece Hall maybe is the only guy worth a first round consideration, but James Cook, Kenneth Walker, then later on, guys like Damian Pierce, Pierce Strong, it is pretty deep. And again, there's every kind of style. Pierce Strong is the guy that I think later on is really going to turn some heads. I mean, he's got his short area explosiveness is impressive. And for the Eagles, I think he is somebody that can return kicks too. And that's something they could use.
Absolutely. And one area that we haven't really talked about with the departure of Jordan Howard, pass protection. Having a back that could truly pass protect. Brian Robinson.
That's why Robinson's going to stand out for sure.
Dude, that might be the best blocking running back that I've seen in quite some time. Like, he was in Alabama for multiple years, and he finally got his shine in his 5th year, going into his 6th year. And he was a polished pass protector. Like you said, he didn't have much of the pass game, but you could see him move in space very well. You could see what he does, contact balance, vision. No, is he the best Alabama running back of all time? No, but he's a polished player coming from a polished school, played big-time football. In my opinion, Lou, without Brian Robinson this year, with the injuries they had at wide receiver, like, that Alabama offense kind of used him as that cement to keep things together when they started to go without those pass catchers. Like, when they got to the playoffs and into the SEC, they really had to rely on him because Jameson Williams goes down. John Mechie is in and out of the lineup. I mean, you really were down to your 3rd and 4th receiving option there. Brian Robinson was the only consistent factor there. I like the idea of drafting any running back this year, Lou, and I think the UDFA pool, the Eagles love to hit that market. We've seen it with Josh Adams. We saw it with Corey Clement. That's the time that I'm going to be looking for.
Yeah,
like, once the 6th round hit, who's going to be there as
Josh
a UDFA?
Adams, man? He, wasn't an RB1 or RB2,
no,
but for an undrafted running back, to get him to lead your team in rushing in 2018, again, that was a matter of some extreme circumstance, but to still get like 500-600 yards out of an undrafted running back, back-to-back years they've done that. So I definitely agree. Gino, I think with James Cook, I think he's the most explosive of this class, though, when it comes to just like once he gets going downhill, he is just the burst,
like his brother,
off the line of scrimmage, just like his brother. And I think his receiving skills are better, man. I think you have a better opportunity to line him up across the formation, kind of like with Kenneth Gainwell last year. So I think whoever gets James Cook too, I think it's going to be a steal in round 3 or wherever he falls.
I think Buffalo would be wise to take a guy like James
he'd be the
Cook.
Perfect fit in Buffalo.
That's why I'm like, do you want to take that guy that would be an instant impact player? Kenneth Walker, you got your Breece Hall. I think James Cook is like right there as one of those guys in the consideration. Then there's kind of that drop off to more of a role playing aspect. Does James Cook go higher because he is really a do it all type of guy? Proven guy in the pass game, proven guy in the run game, can pass protect, good genes with his family. He's got Delvin Cook, his brother, there as well. They love athletic NFL families in the NFL. I think he's going to go higher than a lot of people think. I wouldn't be shocked if some team liked him more than Kenneth Walker, in my opinion.
Yeah, Walker is interesting. Like, I like his vision. I think that he's, he can make people miss too, with cuts, but it's kind of like Le'Veon Bell, not to make a Michigan State comparison, but he doesn't have that long range speed. I think he's kind of patient behind the line of scrimmage, letting things develop, but I don't know how high his ceiling is. So again, I guess it depends on what you want at running back. If you want a guy right away that's safe and you know what you're going to get, I think that's Walker. But again, if you're trying to have an ultimate weapon, boom guy, I think that is more along the lines of James Cook for sure. We'll get into tight end coming up next. As we said in segment 1, if they're not looking to replace Miles Sanders, tight end is the more important role. Tight end 2 is more important than the depth at running back in this draft. We'll check out the options for the Eagles behind Dallas Goedert coming up next, right here on Locked On Eagles. And guys, today's show is sponsored by Rock Auto. Save time and money when using Rock Auto. Don't choose to spend 30, 50, even 100% more for the same parts from a chain store or a car dealership when you have Rock Auto. Their prices are reliably low for every customer. They're a family business that's been serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years, and they have everything you could need. Brake parts, tail lamps, motor oil, even new carpet. Look, cars right now, it's a big expense with gas prices. Save as much money as you can. RockAuto.com is here to help. Go explore their easy-to-use website today to find the solution to your auto part needs. Head over to RockAuto.com right now. See all the parts available for your car or your truck, and make sure you write down Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. Visit RockAuto.com today. All right, Eagles fans, Louie DiBiase and Gino Camilleri on this Tuesday edition of the show, diving into the running back and tight end position as we preview each prospect pool for the 2022 NFL draft, took a look at our top 5 running backs, Gino, in segment 2. Now we're talking tight end. There is no scenario where they need a tight end 1 this year. Dallas Goedert is locked up. He's one of the best tight ends in football. There's a reason you trade, to me, your best tight end ever in Zach Ertz last year, who got top 10 tight end money this offseason. Still a very good, top tier player. But when you have Dallas Goedert, you have to move on. But they could still use somebody else behind him. And I think Jack Stahl, he was good in run support last year. I think, as a third tight end with Tyree Jackson competing as well when he's healthy, that's a good situation, but you need somebody else. And taking a look at our top 5, here are some options for you.
Trey McBride looks like he's on both of ours. Isaiah Likely looks like he's on both of ours as well.
I think the only difference here, you have Charlie Kohler at 5 from Iowa State. I have Jelani Woods from Virginia at 5.
And how do you spell my name right on this one, but you mess it up on the other one?
I just fixed it.
Oh, I like it. Appreciate it.
So I have Wisconsin tight end Jake Ferguson at 4. And so the difference is you have Kohler and Jeremy Ruckert from Ohio State on your list. I have Jake Ferguson and Jelani Woods. But outside of that, we've got Dulcich and Trey McBride as our top 2. Just you have McBride 1. I have Dulcich 1. And then we both agree that Likely is probably the 3rd or 4th tight end on this board. But, you look at, all these prospects, a lot of different variety, and you can get them at different spots. There's going to be some 2nd and 3rd rounders here, but on day 3, I think you can get a guy like Kohler or Woods, maybe even Ferguson, and I think just be just fine. I think this is a deep class.
I think McBride and Dulcich is kind of interchangeable on most boards as well. And I would say that for sure the best tight end to come out of this class will be west of the Mississippi, playing either from UCLA or Colorado State.
Runner, Dulcich is probably more physical, a bigger body, but Gino, I agree. I think it's clear they're the top 2 guys overall as complete products.
Yeah, Jeremy Ruckert, I think kind of is put in the wash as well. So many Ohio State weapons when he was just a key cog to that machine as well. People might take it the other way. Yeah, there were a lot of guys there to take the focus off of Ruckert, but I really like the game that he brings. He's a big body, man, runs really smooth. You talk about a smooth athlete as well, Lou. We both really like Isaiah Likely, I think, because of that versatility that he would bring to this
most explosive tight end of this class.
Yeah. And when we talk about the idea of running more 12 personnel, Lou, it's not like set up your 5 offensive linemen, have a tight end on one side, tight end on other. No, it's going to be guys that are really interchangeable, playing H-back, where you saw Dallas Goedert line up multiple times in the backfield almost as a fullback. They're going to be in the slot. They're going to be out at the numbers. You know how often Dallas Goedert is there. I think it's bringing a complement piece. Isaiah Likely would be a very, very interesting type of guy, because could you even put him in at fullback and kind of kill 2 birds with one stone,
man,
not draft a running back and draft this tight end who could do kind of a lot of everything.
Yeah. I think Dallas Goedert, somebody that, like you said, you're not going to have 2 guys with their hands in the dirt, but Dallas Goedert is a damn good blocker. And he is somebody that can line up on the line of scrimmage and still make his money as a receiver in that formation. And Likely, to me, is more of a guy that is going to be a stand-up tight end. You're going to move him across the formation. Definitely more explosive, but, again, not as physical as some of these other guys. But I think with the Eagles, he would definitely fit. He's your 4th tight end. He's my 3rd. So yeah, man, I really like this class. And then I think with Charlie Kohler, Jake Ferguson, Jelani Woods, there's some really good value picks here. Jelani Woods, I just wrote in some of my notes, just size. It's hard to not fall in love with a guy who's that big with that kind of length. He's a little stiffer than these other players. He's going to need some more help creating separation, but man, as a red zone target, he's a fun watch.
Yeah, dude, Jelani Woods is exactly what you would want if you were to take this is dating myself, but if you go back to watch SpongeBob and he had that one marble where he just hit it once and it was the perfect specimen of a statue, that's a guy Jelani Woods is ripped up. He's just exactly what you would want in an athlete, and just chiseled from clay. Still very raw in what he can do. But I'll take athleticism and physicality, which I think Dallas Goedert might have been one of the first guys to kind of start to set that mold. Then you got the Mark Andrews come into the league, and Jason Kelsey, obviously one of the trendsetters. Then you see the George Kittles of the world. If you get a guy who can run from that spot, put his hand in the dirt, stand up in a 2-point stance, line up in the backfield as well, you're going to get a tight end who becomes now the focal point of your offense in two varieties. He's number one pass catcher as a tight end, but then he becomes like your third or fourth pass catcher if you have solid weapons outside. With this Eagles team, you're going to bring in one of these tight ends if you draft them on day 2. Let's say you get they end up drafting your guy Jake Ferguson as your 7th receiving option going into 2022. Lou,
reliable,
count me
man.
in any single day of the week. He is exactly what you would want in
like a second
Big
tight
Ten tight end. Yeah,
I don't want him to be my top tight end. Like, I think him and Charlie Kohler, the hands they have, the reliability, perfect for what the Eagles need. If you need a starting tight end, with a higher ceiling, you want to go more Jelani Woods, Isaiah Likely, Dulcich or McBride, maybe even Ruckert. But if you need depth and, like you said, a 6th or 7th target in your offense and you want to run 12 more, Charlie Kohler, Jake Ferguson, maybe even a Cole Turner from Nevada, those guys can be had in rounds 4 through 7. So I like that you put Kohler on your list. I think he's a sleeper in this class. And I think Ferguson's just somebody I know what I'm getting. And I really want that as a, reserve player here at this position. So overall, Gino, I think this is a really nice class. And as we've said on Mock Draft Monday before, many times, we want to come away with at least one prospect in this class and preferably have it, at least in rounds, 3 through 5. And get a high quality prospect here. And it can be had in those areas.
Yeah. So here in the list that Dane Brugler has provided, he put on all the grades for each of them. He has 14 guys graded with a 6th round grade or higher in this class. And some of the names that we didn't mention in there, Daniel Bellinger out of San Diego State. I think he's a very fluid mover, will come out and be an instrumental piece to an offense. You have Okonkwo out of Maryland as well. You got Cole Turner.
Gives me Jonnu Smith vibes.
John Fitzpatrick out of Georgia, Lou. Like, talk about all the Georgia prospects. You're going to get this tight end who played in this Kirby Smart style offense, which really you got to do a lot of everything. And he might be the 15th best tight end in this class. And then you go down the list. I love guys like Derek Deese, who Brugler has at 23rd on the list. Even out of UAB, Garrett Prince. If you haven't watched this kid yet, Lou, he averaged I think it was 20 yards per reception coming out at tight end as well. If you want a guy in this class that is going to allow you to give him 2 to 3 targets a game while still being a guy who could block on combo blocks, on chip blocks, somebody that the Eagles love to run that pin and pull where they bring the tight end back across, you could get a guy like that could be a player for you right away in this class. And I think running back, tight end, a lot of similarities when it comes to just the buildup of depth over the COVID year. Bring in all these seniors, all these 5th-year guys with the underclassmen. That's just a conglomeration of good talent. Just identify the guy that's going to fit in your system, and I think they walk away with potentially one guy from both of these positions.
Yeah.
And if not, I would expect them to pay a tight end or running back the highest amount of allotted value at the UDFA when it comes to money that they could give out, because they tend to do that. I think they did that a couple years ago with the tight end that went to Indianapolis and then came back here. He was out of Oregon State. I can't think of his name right now off the top of my head, but the Eagles love to do that. Josh Adams, Corey Clement, look at what they have done in the past, how they value these positions, and know that they do their homework even into the latest rounds. Like Jack Stoll, undrafted free agent. You bring him in and he's playing right away for you once Zach Ertz is gone. No, not to the quality, but they could get guys in here. Hats off to their scouting department at these 2 positions. I would say if you had to look around, since they went over that hump of Josh Adams, where they were in that little Wendell Smallwood area between Shady and Miles, before and after, they've been fantastic and had the depth. And I think they continue to add there in a way that is valuable to them and is in an efficient manner on day 3 and beyond.
We have receiver tomorrow, Gino. I'm looking forward to that conversation.
Big day.
We'll expand the rankings there since we are just covering receiver tomorrow. We'll go with our top 10, and we'll talk some late day options too. So we're going to dive into that tomorrow. We've got the offensive line still this week. Got to hit all of defense too. We've got a week and 2 days until the start of the 2022 NFL draft. So we're talking rankings and prospects up until that point We're going to sign off, though, for today. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'm Louie DiBiase. He's Gino Camilleri. Make sure you subscribe to Locked On Eagles wherever you get the podcast, video form as well on YouTube, and hit us up on Twitter at Locked On Birds, at GC24_football, and at DiBiase LOE. Thanks so much for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. Now make sure your second listen is the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast to get you ready for Thursday, Friday, and Saturday with our hosts Ryan Tracy and former NFL cornerback Eric Crocker, free and available wherever you get your shows. For Gino, I'm Louie DiBiase signing off. As always, thank you for downloading, thank you for listening and watching, and let's go Birds.
Fly, Eagles, fly.